Hi there, my name is Trolls and welcome to Soundpaint 3.0. This is a free update to our already free Soundpaint ecosystem. It's probably also our most colorful and user-centric update. There's two particular things about this update that I really want to highlight. The first one is our new color mode. Every time you click, you're going to change the timbral nature of the instrument. That means that within one single instrument, you now have dozens of different instruments. The other aspect I love about this engine is that we've now updated our USI tool or our user sample editor. This offers you the ability to create your own instruments inside of the engine. And the most frequent request we've gotten from you guys is that you want the ability to do velocity stacking on every single key. So if you have 127 different velocity samples per key, you can now stack them inside of the editor. Or you can use our velocity morphing technology and let it do all the work for you. But Soundpaint 3.0 also have a variety of other features. For example, we have our new tattoos. Tattoos are ways that you can sort of flavor a program, if you will. It covers the whole program region up here, and by dragging and dropping different image files, you can now create your own sort of flavors. You may also have noticed that we have 4 racks inside of Soundpaint now. That means that you have up to 28 different modules you can put inside of the engine. It sort of goes together with that sonic Lego philosophy we have. We truly want to make an engine that you can make your own. We also have a new sound mode called Velocity Block, which allows you to take different velocities and stack them but block them. Say you want to have different legatos triggering at different velocities or more instruments coming in when you play harder on the keys, you can use Velocity Block for that. We also have a new H.A.L 3.0 technology. H.A.L 3 is designed for a variety of our upcoming legato products, and it just makes the super smooth polyphonic experience of H.A.L even more fluent. And then there's just a variety of small improvements. For example, I often find myself needing to rescan my directory to update all my instruments. Well, we have a single icon up here right now where you can do that. Without further ado, let me just show you what it's all about, starting here with color mode. Let's try to go 6 up on the saxophone here. Very sort of desperate, almost like nervous sound. The color sort of gets a little bit darker, and it goes for all instruments, also human voices. It's a unique quality with color that the higher the value, the brighter it is, and the lower the value, the more dark it gets. This is almost comfortable to the natural timbral range of the saxophone. And completely natural. It's really smoky in the jazz club at -4. Everything just gets a little bit looser and like darker. Let's try -6 here. What instrument is that? Like, it's somewhere between a tenor and a baritone, but man, what a sound. So you can actually build ensembles out of solo instruments now. So if you load a couple of instances of Soundpaint, use the color mode, use a little bit of panning maybe, then you can build a full new ensemble out of both natural instruments and supernatural instruments. So that's the free 1928 in its core root condition. As you just heard, a bunch of different permutations. Let's go to like -12. Compare that with the +12. We can go deeper as well. Let's go all the way down to like -24. We can try to go deeper as well. It's almost going to be so deep in its timbre that it's almost disappearing, but this is -36. We can start hearing like digital artifacts down here. But it's cool, very analog. So many instruments inside of one. This is really what color mode is about. It works on everything, as you're about to see. We can use it on strings, guitars, tonal, percussion, pianos, keyboards, anything you can imagine that has a tonal character to it. It's one of my favorite features in Soundpaint because it allows me to just go straight from this to a normal piano, to a dark piano. It works on everything. Let me just play the ensemble here at its normal color level. Say for example, we want a little more of a second violin kind of vibe. Go like -2 on it here. All of a sudden, it's a little bit darker, just like you would get from a second violin group. -4. Let me just play a little bit up in the higher range here with the violins and try to play some arpeggiations, but use color while I'm doing it so you can hear all the color levels as we play through these arps. And 4 is going to be very bright. We can try 6. There's a natural place where it gets out of context to the natural physical instrument, but let's hear what it is. I mean, it's almost like a super bright violin, a super violin. Up here at 8. It's not a violin anymore. It must be a very, very thin cousin of the violin compared to -2. Just delicious. -6. And to me, color mode works really well on stringed instruments, whether it's guitars, natural strings, or in this case here, harps. Obviously, when we go +12, it's almost like a coda. Let's go like 8 on it. 4. Two. And normal. -12. All the way up to like a super tiny baby harp. Now, colors worked on pianos and strings and guitars and so forth, but it actually also works on synthesizers. Anything that has a tonal nature to it just does it. Let me trigger this Juno here at +12, which is gonna make it a very bright sound, and then we'll go down in color as the arp plays here. Now to me, it seems like the color, particularly on this vintage synthesizer here, gets more vintage the deeper we go in color and more modern the brighter we go. Let me just play the same thing here at -27 and then +12. And just one last word on color. It works on all parts. So in this case here, I have a woodwind trio all playing legato together, but as I move the color button, the whole ensemble now changes its color as well. -5. We're in murky territory, but it's so beautiful. The legato is so delicate. Let's try it like super deep. Color. You may know that when you download Soundpaint for free, that it comes with the Soundpaint engine, but it also comes with another tool that we call USI. USI is essentially a sample editor where you can import your own recordings and quickly build your own instruments and parts, and then put them inside of Soundpaint and really mangle them. You can use an iPhone for recording. I personally prefer to use my little Tascam handheld device here. What's unique about our new USI tool is that it allows you to stack up to 120 samples per key. So if you have 88 keys, it's 88 times 127. If I was to do a snare, I would record like 5-7 different layers and the engine would fill in the rest. It's a lot easier to sample this way. The sound I hear every single day is the sound of my car. There's so many beautiful mechanical sounds inside of the car, but there's one sound in particular that really got me, and that's the sound of my dashboard. I took my beloved Tascam recorder here and recorded all these different sounds of my car. And then I took all the different sounds and chopped them up into individual samples, and then very, very lazily just dragged them in here and dropped them. I click autofill up here just so it's all filled out so I can play it anywhere on the keyboard. So you know how you go into the car and you either click the start button or ignition? I then took the sound here, added a couple of different effects, and then used our rack time module here and slowed down time. So all of a sudden it became. And I was like, what is this cool, like vintage keyboard? Like, it's so pretty. I don't know about you, but for me, there are certain videos on YouTube that I just keep coming back to. I keep coming back to this little cute rainy desert frog that makes the cutest sound ever. Every time I hear it, I go, it's like, oh, like it's the cutest sound ever. So I decided to take my little handheld recorder here and just record this little froggy sound, and then quickly drag that recording into my USI tool here, click the autofill button, go up to File and click Generate Part. And all of a sudden, we have the OG froggy here inside of Soundpaint. Now, because it's just a single sample, it's spread across the entire keyboard here, and somewhat in the original pitch of the frog, it sounds like this. And an octave down. I also wanted to try to make a drum kit out of the frog. In this case here, I loaded the same part but 4 times, And then I used offset on the different parts here. If you notice here, when I click offset, you'll see the values are different in the offset module. And then go into sound mode here and set different parameters. For example, you'll notice that I'm using the one note stretch here just to find a specific note. And then I'm using key range down here to say, well, this bass drum or snare drum can only play in these given keys here, so I don't get overlap between the different parts. And then you notice here on the pitch that I'm putting some of them down here, -40, probably to find like a bass drum sound, and then snares and so forth, and just build a little bit of a froggy drum kit here. And for some ungodly reason, I also heard the H.A.L theme inside of the frog here. So using time to slow down the frog, then add a little bit of micro pitch vibration here. And when I move the mod wheel here, it gets more intense. In this case here, it's just our 1928 piano combining with a frog here, playing the infamous H.A.L theme by Mark Snow. I wanted to do a quick prototype session here, just testing some ideas for how I could build my own drum engine. In this case here, I have this little beautiful guitar over here. I just recorded like one note on it, so I had that. And then I did 4 different types of strums. I did strums on the sort of top bassy kind of the strings going down, and then I did it reverse coming up, meaning more on the treble kind of strings. Then I did the same thing, but more for the middle sort of part of the fretboard, and then going down and up again. But let me just show you quickly how you can program inside of USI, because there's a couple of different ways you can do it. First, you can stack the velocities on the keys, beginning with me just playing very soft strum on the guitar and then gradually playing that chord harder and trying to hit the same strings every time. You take these samples here. This began down here at 10 and went to 19, and then you drag it in here in the sample editor. You drag your samples down to the very key here, and now you're gonna see that they're stacked in velocities, and I just let go here. The engine has already created all the morphing variations between them, so I now have 127 different strums in that key. Now, that was one way of playing here, more on the sort of deeper bass strings of the instrument. In totality, I had 6 different zones I did that with. Now, keep in mind that this is one way of doing it. The other way is simply just to take all these sounds here and essentially just put them horizontally on the keys here. So now I can play every single key as a chord. Take your portable recorder, come up with a concept, record some different ideas, use the USI sample editor here, throw it in Soundpaint, and just have fun with it. Let's begin here just with a velocity-based test. And even though I only recorded like 9-10 different velocity layers here, I have 127 because the engine just fills in the rest and does it in real time as well. We can do the same for chords. If we move up a little bit, things get a little bit brighter. One thing I like to do is just to put them in the arpeggiator and sort of try to create new grooves out of it. I also recorded some samples with the flute. There's 6 notes in the flute, so in order to do sustains, you just need 7 notes. So I'm gonna go into my folder here called Indian Flute. You have one here called Sustain, and then we have a Sustain Shaky that also says A4. I'll highlight both samples here. If you continue all the way down and put it on the actual key, you now get stacked notes. The velocity morphing has already happened. You don't need to do anything else. So just click autofill up here, and the engine will now take everything and spread it out so it's fully over your keyboard and fully playable. But this was just a quick example of what you can do inside of USI. Record some things real quick, either on your iPhone or a little recorder, or with great equipment. Throw it inside of the editor, mangle things around, and then really have fun inside of Soundpaint with them. So we've had fun with color, we've had fun with user sample editing and creating your own instruments from scratch. But I also want to show you some of the other features we have in 3.0, beginning here with the user interface. Tattoos, the ability to add a little bit of flavor and personal spice into your programs from a visual point of view. Let me just show you a couple of examples that I've made of how to use tattoos. It's super simple. Essentially, you just bring in your Finder here, and then you just take an image and you drag and drop it here. For example, this is a guitar. This is like a bullseye. A paint splat, whatever you want to put in there. You can also drop like JPEGs in there if you want to. I like to use the transparent PNGs just because they allow me to see the original color of the UI, and it's more just a little spice, you know, like when a chef makes a great dish, they're just a little bit delicate with the salt. Let me just show you a couple of different tattoos that I've made. I like to use them in conjunction with the tips module as well. I think that gives more of kind of a flavor, but these are just different examples of how to be creative with it. For example, up here, just having a boom because I have a boomer patch here from Hybrid, or in this case here, a hang drum, a little bit of a UFO up here, or a firefly piano, or in this case here, a pure tone. For me, as a minimalist lover, I just love just having a single part, nothing else, maybe just a simple little graphic here marking the pure tone. This for me is like delicious. Or for example here with Adastra, we have these beautiful arcs. So I thought it could just be cute to like have a little bit of an arcing graphic or an arcing tattoo, if you will. This one is a good example of just how to have fun with the UI. Use the lines, the natural design of the UI, and just move things around and have fun. So for me, for example, because we have these natural circles here in the UI for the parts, I just took the exact sort of bullseye and placed it right over. We have Photoshop files for these things here. If you go to our Discord community, you can find them there in case you want to make your own tattoos. If you notice over here, you'll see that we now have 4 different multi-racks. Each rack can contain 7 different modules. So we now have 28 different modules inside of Soundpaint. And it goes to that idea of Soundpaint being your engine. Sometimes for me, I don't need any modules. I can just load in a part and play my piano. Sometimes I want to go super deep and create like 7 different LFOs and multiple ADSRs and offset controls, and you can do that with all the racks now to your heart's content. So for example here, if you want to have 4 different legatos and a specific overview over each one inside of the UI, you can do that now. Or for example, if you want to have 7 different LFOs and have an overview of all of them at the same time, you can do that now inside of the racks as well. It's really what you want to make out of it. While improving the UI, I also got the idea of improving the keyboard labels. I felt the last version was a little bit hard to move, and if I wanted to do more delicate key switches, it became sort of a little bit hard to do. So we've improved the way they function, the way you can lay them out. It's just a lot easier. So for example, in this patch here, I have 4 different legato parts for chamber strings, violins, violas, cellos, and basses. And you'll notice the labels down here are marked by the natural range of the instruments here. If I want to move them here, I can just drag them. If I want to change the color, I just click on them. It's super easy to just drag the edges here. And just a more user-friendly way of having the keyboard labels as guidelines for the different ranges of the instruments here. In this case here, the full chamber strings loaded with our Village Legato, one of my favorite legatos here. We've also added a new sound mode in Soundpaint 3.0 called Velocity Block. You know, we have 127 different velocities, but now we can do that between different instruments. Say, for example, I want to have a soft lyrical legato when I play soft on the keys, but when I play harder, I want the strings to start playing slower portamento legato, or vice versa. You can now completely build that with Velocity Block. Let me show you that on Adastra chamber strings. So I'm going to load legato here on part 1. Now, let's say I like this, but when I play harder, I want more portamento. I'm going to take the portamento here and put it in part 2. Now they're playing combined. But let's say I want a portamento to be pronounced when I play hard on the keys, but otherwise not. I'll go into sound mode here and I'll set the velocity block, let's say here at 100 to 127. So when I play soft now, the portamento is not going to trigger. But when I play hard, it is. But let's say I want that soft layer down here to disappear when I play portamento. I'll go in here to part 1 and down to velocity block, and I'll say like block at like 99 because the other one over here began at 100. So now that I play soft, I'm only playing soft, and when I play hard, but I can alternate between them. One of the improvements we've done to legato in our new H.A.L, our hyperacoustic legato technology 3.0, is that you can actually bind legatos between the different velocity blocks. So if I play soft here, I can go from that into the portamento as well and back again. We can use velocity block on anything. So for example here, I got the Adastra ensemble strings loaded up, and I'm thinking I want to try to have spiccatos when I play soft and then marcatos when I play a little bit harder. So I'm going to load the feathered spiccatos into part 1 here, and I'll set the velocity block to, let's say like 99 here. Then I'm going to go into part 2 and load the marcatos here, and then set that from like 100 and upwards on velocity block. Now we should have somewhat playable dramatic strings when we play hard, but more percussive in the softer bottom. Soundpaint 3.0 also contains 2 new filter models. I love the Moog Model D and I love the Oberheim, so we've modeled both of those filters down to perfection. This actually ties together with a much larger synthesis-friendly free update we've got coming from Soundpaint, but this is just a little prelude to what's about to happen. I have a true Model D filter and a true Oberheim here, and let me just play a little bit with a couple of synths here so you can hear what they sound like. They're just super sweet, very buttery, shiny, creamy, those sort of characteristics of the Model D and the SEM filter as well. Soundpaint 3.0 also comes with a new updated version of our H.A.L, our hyperacoustic legato technology, also now at version 3.0. Here's just one example of the Adastra chamber ensemble playing in octaves. It's just so fluent and really feels like I'm commanding a full section. Polyphonically. As we continue to mature Soundpaint, we are always looking for new logical ways of improving the user experience. For example, for me, I often find myself going into settings here and then having to go to manage library directories and then click full rescan when I have new libraries in the engine. We thought it could be neat to make that process a lot easier. So if you notice this little icon up here, that's actually the same thing. You just click on it and it'll rescan the entire browser directory and all your instruments are updated. And just to the left of rescan here is another little icon here. If you click on it, you'll be in our advanced search here. This is where you can really dial in your deep search. If you are having trouble finding something here, we have all these deep tagging systems here that allows you to find the sound based on a variety of different things: microphones, sound articulations. It can be genres, instrument type, sound techniques, microphones, halls, anything you want in terms of really finding and identifying a specific instrument. It's just those small kind of things that just makes the engine a little more delightful and fun to use. And that pretty much wraps it up for Soundpaint 3.0. We have a new color mode, we have new user sample import features, we have all the additional things we've done to the UI here to make the experience faster, funner. We got new filters, new H.A.L technologies, tattoos, new labels, and so forth. But we also have one more thing coming very soon. This is Soundpaint 3.0, but 3.1 is actually done as I'm speaking right now and will come out a few weeks later. What we've done is that we built the Soundpaint downloader into Soundpaint itself, so you no longer need to use another utility, and it's a lot easier and more logical to use. In fact, the whole engine experience is a lot easier as a result of it. All the freebies are available right away, so you don't need to go to the website or anything like that. But that's coming soon. Thank you so much for watching, and most importantly, thank you for supporting the Soundpaint ecosystem. We're deep down the trenches of really trying to push forward music technology. We're well beyond AI and the apocalypse, as I like to call it. I think we have a long way to go before any of those technologies can even remotely touch where we're going with ultra deep sampling and really creating technology here that's also using AI components, but to really make instruments fully realistically playable and emotionally gratifying on the keys. So thank you so much for supporting us, and I'm eternally grateful because I love doing this for a living and our whole team is super supportive in it as well. And without you guys, we couldn't do it. So thank you.